Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of the PixelCast. I'm the founder of PixelFest, Jeremy Alessi, and tonight I'm joined by Andrew Scott Hollis, who's a long-time PixelFest attendee. He's been hanging out with us at the Devs Meetups. He went with Henry and I on a road trip in during PixelFest 2017 to Global Game Jam in Raleigh and Richmond, and he's a really awesome designer. Actually, one of my favorite memories of Andrew was when he got to hang out with Bill Ritchie. And in case you don't know, Bill Ritchie spoke at PixelFest 2017. He's the creator of ThinkFun, which makes all sorts of like physical puzzle games, brain teasers, and things like that. And Bill's brother, Dennis Ritchie, actually invented the C programming language, which is pretty cool. But the greatest thing about that is, like I said, Andrew has a great designer mind. He's always bringing new games with him to PixelFest Devs Meetup. And like today you brought Jeweler's Dozen, which we've been playing for a number of years, but the game keeps getting better and better. So
Jeweler's Dozen was a game I made while I was in getting my MFA in game development. It was from my first class, and they just said, here's some stuff that ancient people would have, make a game out of it. So I made a simple game called Jeweler's Dozen, and then over the years I met everyone at PixelFest, and I've just brought it every now and then with different iterations. So the latest iteration I brought tonight to Circuit Social, which is a great little barcade in downtown Norfolk.
Good times all around. These are pinball machines behind us, but they've got everything. We actually beat Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time tonight, and it didn't cost us too much. I actually played the first one here, and it cost a friend and I like $50 to go through it over the summer, and that was disheartening. But we got through the game, and I got through on less than $10 tonight, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, so I think we all collectively got through on less than 20.
Yeah, so that was a good time. That was fun. Yeah. We had a lot of good conversation. I have to say, this is probably going to be a fairly short episode because it is late. We had so much fun tonight that Andrew and I just decided we're going to get together after everybody else has left and do the PixelCast, and I'm happy that Andrew came out and wanted to follow up with him, and so this will be a fairly short PixelFest Devs Meetup PixelCast, but we're going to get into some good stuff. Yeah. So you said you recently went to a LARP up in Philadelphia?
Yeah, I went to a LARP called Dragon Thrones. You can check it out at dragonthronesgame.com. It was half mega game, half live action role play. So you get a character. This is who you are. You dress up as them, and then there's it's sort of role play where there's some dice involved with some things, but it's a very simple. You have sort of objectives you want to do, and you have to talk to other people and figure out how to do that. Plus, sort of little mini games you could go do throughout the event. A big overarching story that we all were presented when we arrived. What's called a boffer element with foam swords, where we went and fought through a dungeon.
That's awesome.
But it was really cool, and it was actually in Arcadia. It was at Arcadia University, the Gray Towers, and it's it was a building built in the 1890s by I can't remember who it was, but it's some Rockefeller-esque person, and he built a castle with full working electricity run through the building in 1890s.
Wow. That's incredible, and he's like, it's a castle. Like, legitimately, it's a castle.
Yeah, it's a legit castle. I was like, I thought it was just the inside was themed out. No, the outside of it is they said they based it on the castle that was used for Harry Potter.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Now going back to Jeweler's Dozen real quick, one of the cool things that happened at the Devs Meetup tonight was I also got to see Joseph Musso hang out with Andrew Scott Hollis, and these are two guys that I really admire their design capabilities, and I was kind of like not sitting at the table, but I was like, oh, those guys are going to come up with some cool stuff. And so you actually like iterated on the game while you're here at the Devs Meetup tonight.
Yeah, it was actually really interesting. He'd never seen the game before, so I was explaining to him the current version of the game, and then he was like, well, what if we tried this? And I just let him play with it, and what he ended up doing was showing me functionally the original version of the game. and then I was able to work with him and say, okay, yeah, that was the original version we had, and then this is how I changed it. And then he was like, okay, well, and we worked through...
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so we were able to basically take it all the way back to zero, and then I explained to him how we got back up to where the current version was, so that we were able to walk through the concerns he had, so that we could make a better version. So now I have a what I would say a cohesive strategic pressure luck game.
Oh yeah, for sure. The game to me felt more structured than it did in the past. You know, sometimes you're playing a game and you're like, that logically just doesn't quite feel right. But tonight when we played Jeweler's Dozen, it felt spot on. Like, it was like, yes, every single thing that we did, I think made sense. I mean, some of the logic, there's some edge case logic, like when you're playing it, that some of these things are just things you have to learn in order to play the game. But some of the things were like, no, now I don't know, it had a really solid feel tonight.
Yeah, and it was I think before it was very just you get lucky and you stuff, but now there's actually like the choices seem to matter more versus just an LCR, an left center right game where it's just roll the dice, pass the dice.
Yeah, so that was the game that's just pure luck.
Yeah.
It had a good mix of luck and skill. And one of the things that happened was Joseph was playing, and he made a move, and he did it to be a contrarian. Mm-hmm. But what ended up happening was it benefited me, and I was like, oh, dude, that's going to benefit me. Are you sure you want to do that? He's like, yeah, no, I want to do this. And I was like, okay. And
then after that, we discussed that there may be times where you want to help your opponent with the math because it's going to benefit you.
Yes.
So you want to basically bluff them into thinking that what the best move is instead of working it through themselves.
Yeah, there was a little bit more of a layered strategy going on with the game. That was more social. I think that had to do as well because you added like a meta layer to the game, whereas before it was like just one round and whoever won, right? That's sort of how it worked in the past. And now, Andrew's designed the game so that it keeps going and it's cyclical.
Yeah, there's a scoring system, so when the round ends, the game isn't over. You can potentially win back into the game.
Right on. Good times. What's up?
Yeah.
I was like, who's hanging out here? Yeah. So Andrew's wife just like came up and hung out here, and I was like, I wasn't really looking at her. So sorry about that. So now, do you have any, like, when you got to hang out with Bill Ritchie and go over, and now apparently I think you said the person who organized the LARP also has a board game company? Is that what you said?
Yeah, he owns everything Epic Games. I think it's everything Epic Games.
Okay.
And they're making a board game right now, but they're a board game publisher.
When you got to sit down with Bill Ritchie, do you remember some of the advice that he gave you? Like, was some of that, like, I'm going to take this to heart, and this is going to be a part of this product?
Yeah, so back when I was presenting him the game, I was trying to come up with a how do I sell it? Right. So because the game in its initial form before what I've done now was very LC. It was very press your luck. Just roll the dice. You get what happens.
Right.
And so he was like, what you need to figure out is what's the story and like sell that story, because the game itself is fun. It's something people can sit around and do, but how do you market it in a way that people would find it interesting? Because the thing that's going to be interesting about this game is the story you attach to it more than the mechanics of the game itself. And so I was like, okay, I've been pondering that for a while, and I was like, well, maybe I need to update the game one more iteration, and so that's what I've just done today.
You came up with a lot of like theme for the game, it seemed like. So, for example, Andrew wants to put the game in like a leather bag. The bag itself will become the board, and the instructions may be printed on the bag somewhere. I guess they could be separate as well. And he also wants to make it so that you can use D&D dice to play it, but you could also have a set that comes with the dice as well, and it could, like, you could either take the dice or leave it, right?
Yeah, so like, that was the idea. I was thinking initially it was 6 gems and a 6-sided die, and then I was like, well, what comes in sets of 7 that also includes a 6-sided die, and that's an RPG set.
Right.
So the standard RPG set of dice could just be your gems. You don't have to have a separate thing of gems, and then you could use the gems to score.
Right.
And so that's what I brought tonight to test, and I think through some iteration, it's definitely a more interesting game, and obviously, like you've said, it clicks more what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I had fun playing it. I won. I don't know if that's why I had more fun playing it, but that's always good. And I was going to say, I think I already covered Bill Ritchie, but he founded Think Fun and created the game Rush Hour, or at least had the game produced. I think he hired a designer to do it, but Rush Hour, of course, is a highly iconic game that I think he sold like 10 million copies of this game, or in excess of that. And obviously Rush Hour is a very strong theme with the cars where you put them on the board and you have to slide them off. And yeah, that's just one of my favorite memories. Like going back through and looking at PixelFest history, there are these moments that stand out in my mind where I feel like, yes, we really made a connection that I think hopefully helped somebody there. And I remember seeing Andrew and Bill Ritchie sit down at PixelFest 2017. That's one of the moments that stands out in my mind, going, yes, those are the two perfect people that need to sit down and talk to each other right now in a sort of mentor-mentee relationship. So
yeah, and I also wanted to talk to him because he had made that game, was it Math Dice? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so he had made a dice game.
Yep.
And so I wanted to show him my dice game so that he could input his what he thought about it. But I think, that was the kind of thing that if you don't go to these kinds of events like PixelFest, you'll just never be in the room with somebody like that.
No, that's right. This is something that happened completely impromptu. It's like, yes, we got Bill there to do a talk, but the meeting between Andrew and Bill, this is something that happens from just like coming out. So we're at a PixelFest Devs meetup here at Circuit Social in downtown Norfolk right now. We had actually a really good turnout tonight. Like I said, we had so much fun that we just saved the PixelCast for last. Didn't do it in the middle of everything. We had a blast. And you got to come out to the next meetup. I think that doing the PixelCast at the PixelFest Devs meetups has actually, we've been getting more and more people coming back out, which is good. And if you're watching this and you're thinking about making a game, whether it be a board game, you can hang out with Andrew and give you some advice, or a video game, it doesn't matter. Come on out. You're going to get advice on your game. You're going to learn something you didn't know. You might meet your business partner. Anything can happen. You might meet somebody like Bill Ritchie at a PixelFest event. So that's, it could, somebody that could be a mentor to you that, can show you the next step that you didn't know you needed to take. So, what do you think, man? You think that's good for tonight?
Well, I just want to make a shout out. So we know PixelFest is a thing you can do, but I also teach at Regent University. RegentCon is coming. We're going to have RegentCon 2020, and it's going to be April 18th.
Wonderful.
So make sure you find that on Facebook, social media. Come on out.
We need to come hang out, though.
Yes.
Definitely.
Everyone.
We're going to do an episode of the PixelCast at RegentCon.
Yeah. You want to do it? Just let me know. We'll do it.
Absolutely. That would be awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So, all right, man. Hey, thanks for being on the PixelCast. Short episode. We had a great time. You need to come out next time. As always, let's continue to grow through love of games. Good night.